Good morning, students. As in the previous class, I have started with the new chapter, that is digestion and absorption. In the previous class, I have completed the digestive system, where we have studied separately and with two topics, that is the alimentary canal and the digestive glands. Under the alimentary canal, after studying the alimentary canal structure, we have studied one more topic, that is the wall of the alimentary canal. After the wall of the alimentary canal, the digestive glands. As in the previous class, I have stopped at the digestive glands. In that, the last topic was the duct systems of liver, pancreas, and the gallbladder. So here you can observe in the diagram, that is the ducts from the liver. Ducts from the liver means the liver is bilobed structure, where from each lobe there will be arising of the hepatic duct. Okay, so this hepatic duct, together they are going to join and forms one common duct, that is called as common hepatic duct. So this common hepatic duct will be carrying the bile juice from the liver, and that bile juice will be stored inside the gallbladder. Okay, so here the bile juice will be sent from the liver through the common hepatic duct. So that bile juice should be received by the gallbladder. So the gallbladder should also have the ducts, and those ducts are called as cystic duct. Okay, so here the cystic duct is going to receive the bile juice. Common hepatic duct is going to send the bile juice. So both cystic and common hepatic duct are both carrying the same secretion from the liver. That's why the common hepatic duct and the cystic duct, where they are going to meet together, where they are going to join together, the common point, the common duct is called as the common bile duct. So this common bile duct is going to open inside the duodenum. Okay, so here we are studying the duct system of the liver, pancreas also. So pancreas, you all know that the pancreas is having the ducts called as the pancreatic ducts. So those pancreatic ducts will be carrying pancreatic juice. So if the pancreas alone sends the pancreatic juice inside the duodenum, there should be one connection with the duodenum and pancreas. If the liver sends the bile juice to the duodenum, and there should be one more opening for the bile juice to be sent to the duodenum. So two lateral connections will be observed on the surface of the duodenum. So in order to avoid the two openings to the two lateral connections with respect to the liver and pancreas, this liver and pancreas together, that is the liver's common bile duct, pancreas, the pancreatic duct, both are going to join together, makes a common duct, and that common duct is going to enter inside, or it is going to open inside the duodenum. So the common bile duct and the pancreatic duct together, they are going to form a hepatopancreatic duct. So this hepatopancreatic duct, it is going to open inside the duodenum of the small intestine, where it is regulated by the sphincter of OD. So here the sphincter of OD, it is regulating the opening of hepatopancreatic duct into the small intestine. The small intestine is made up of three parts: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. But this hepatopancreatic duct, it is going to enter, or it is going to open inside only the duodenum. The next topic, that is the digestion of food. As students, you all know the meaning of digestion. So this digestion means the breakdown of the larger food substances into smaller food substances. But how it is being broken down from larger to the smaller, that is being carried out by two methods. What are those two methods? That is mechanical and the chemical processes. So here the mechanical and the chemical both are going to takes place in in the alimentary canal. If you take the example of our buccal cavity, so in our buccal cavity mechanical method is also going to takes place and the chemical method is also going to takes place. So how the mechanical method is being taken inside our buccal cavity? So inside the buccal cavity, as you all know that it is having the teeth, tongue and the it is having the teeth, tongue and the salivary glands. Okay, all these are present inside our buccal cavity. So here the teeth and tongue, they are going to help for the mastication of food and even they are going to help for the facilitation of swallowing. So what is this? The mastication of food and facilitation of swallowing. So here mastication of food means chewing of the food substances. When you eat the food, that food directly you are not going to swallow it. Directly you are not going to send from your buccal cavity to the esophagus. Okay, so that food will be chewed, that food will be masticated, that food will what the food it is going to enter inside your oral cavity or buccal cavity. That food is being chopped, chewed, cut into smaller food molecules. After that smaller food particles, that food will be swallowed. That food will be sent from your buccal cavity to the pharynx. Okay, so here this mastication of the food and the facilitation of initiation of swallowing, it is being done with the help of the teeth and tongue. The teeth and tongue are helping for the mastication of food and the facilitation of swallowing. Along with this teeth and tongue, even the food is made to mix up thoroughly with respect to the saliva also. So here the teeth and tongue are helping the food to mix thoroughly with respect to the saliva. So this, what is this saliva? Saliva is the secretion which is going to come from the salivary glands. So this saliva is sticky in substances. So that sticky nature of the mucus which is present in the saliva will bring all the food particles which are being broken down into smaller food particles. All those will be brought together, will be made to get adhered to each other by forming a ball like structure called as a bolus. What is the bolus? The bolus is the masticated food particles which are adhered, which are lubricated with the help of the mucus which is present in the saliva. So now the bolus is being formed. How the bolus is being formed? The bolus is being formed with the help of your teeth, tongue and even or mainly the saliva. So that bolus, where it is being formed? That bolus is being formed in your oral cavity. Okay, so that bolus will be sent from your buccal cavity to the pharynx, and from the pharynx it is being entered to the esophagus. So this process of conveying the bolus to enter from buccal cavity to the pharynx, from the pharynx making it to enter inside the esophagus, it is being done by, or that process is called as swallowing or deglutition. Okay, so now this the bolus which is going to enter inside the esophagus. So you all know that the esophagus is nothing but the food pipe which is going to move across to your neck till the diaphragm. So until it reaches the diaphragm means the food pipe is a long tubular like structure. So in this tubular structure the bolus has to move from the opening of the food pipe until it reaches the diaphragm. Okay, so how that bolus is being made to move across the length of the esophagus. So this esophagus it is made up of the muscles. So these muscles are undergoing contractions. That contractions are called as muscular contractions, but these muscular contractions are not being taking place at a time. At a time, what is this here? Now consider, imagine a long food pipe. Okay, where to which point the bolus enters, that part of the esophagus will be enlarged, remaining all the part of the food pipe will be constricted. Now when the bolus enters from that first point to the second point, so the first point become constricted, second point becomes enlarged. So this is said to be as the successive wave like formation is being taken place with the help of the muscles. Okay, so that is called as the successive waves of muscular contractions, called as this process of the formation of successive waves with respect to the muscles of the esophagus is called as peristalsis. So the peristaltic movement which is going to takes place inside the esophagus is making the food to move from the food means the bolus to move from esophagus until it reaches the diaphragm. Okay, so once the food bolus is going to reach the once it is going to reach the last part of the food pipe, so from there the bolus is going to next enter into the next part of the alimentary canal, that is called the stomach. Okay, so here the making of food from the esophagus to the stomach, the entry of the food from the esophagus to the stomach is being regulated by the sphincter called as gastroesophageal sphincter. So this gastroesophageal sphincter controls the passing of the food from the esophagus into the stomach. So this is now the bolus has entered till the stomach. Okay, so this is all with respect to your mechanical method of digestion. So in this process means the food what you take, that food is being chewed, it is being formed as a bolus. So that bolus is being entering into the pharynx. From the pharynx the bolus will move to the esophagus, from esophagus to the stomach. So this is all with respect to the mechanical method. Okay, so with in this track only how the chemical method is going to takes place, or where the chemical method is going to takes place. So remember, the chemical process of the deglutition or the chemical process of the digestion, it is being initiated inside our oral cavity itself. How oral cavity means the chemical digestion of the breakdown of the larger food substances into smaller food substances is going to takes place inside our oral cavity with the help of the enzymes which are being present inside the saliva. So the saliva means it is a secretion which is coming from salivary glands. So that saliva is being consisting of the electrolytes and even the enzymes. How many? What are the electrolytes? Which electrolytes are present in the saliva? That is sodium, potassium, chlorine, and bicarbonate. All these are present in our saliva. Along with the electrolytes, there are presence of the enzymes. How many enzymes are present? There are two enzymes are present. What are those two enzymes? One is salivary amylase, another one is lysozyme. Okay, so here this salivary amylase is helping for bringing the first chemical process of the digestion, which is going to occur inside our oral cavity, is being carried out by the enzyme called as salivary amylase. Remember, this salivary amylase is called as carbohydrate splitting enzyme. Why it is called as carbohydrate splitting enzyme? When it acts on the carbohydrate, so that carbohydrate is being made as hydrolyzed. Hydrolyzed means it is being made as diluted. Diluted means it is being broken down. Okay, so here the salivary amylase is helping for the breakdown of the larger food substances into smaller food substances. So how it is being taking place? I'll tell the function of salivary amylase. So whenever you take the food in your diet, if there is a large amount of the starch is present in your diet, in that food, whatever the food you are going to take, in that food 30% of the starch is being broken down, or it is being hydrolyzed by the help of enzyme that is called as salivary amylase. So when you take the starch content, the starch rich food, so that starch will be broken down into the maltose. What is this starch and maltose? So you want, both are carbohydrates. Okay, so these carbohydrates, on the basis of the presence of ketone groups or the hydroxyl groups, the carbohydrates are being broken down into monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Remember, the starch is the example for polysaccharide. So when 30% of the starch is being hydrolyzed inside our oral cavity with the help of salivary amylase, so that salivary amylase will break the starch into the disaccharide, that is the maltose. So this reaction, this enzymatic action of the breakdown of the starch into maltose is going to take place under the pH, that is 6.8. Okay, so this is with respect to the salivary amylase, which where the enzyme is present inside your saliva. Okay, so the next enzyme is lysozyme. So this lysozyme, it is considered to be as antibacterial agent. Why it is considered to be as antibacterial agent? Because it is going to fight against the bacterial growth, or it is going to fight against the infections, or it is going to prevent the infections. So these are the two enzymes which are present in our saliva. So the next, this is with whatever now I have told, it is with respect to the chemical method of the digestion also, and the mechanical method of digestion. So the next the bolus is going to enter from the esophagus to the stomach. So here the bolus which is entering from the esophagus to the stomach is being regulated by the sphincter called as gastroesophageal sphincter. Okay, so when the food enters from the esophagus to the stomach, so you all know that the wall of the alimentary canal, that is, the stomach is also the part of the alimentary canal. So the wall of the stomach is made up of four layers. Okay, what are those four layers? If you move from outermost to the innermost, so outermost one is serosa, next is muscularis, submucosa, and the mucosa. So this mucosal layer of the stomach is having epithelium tissue. So this mucosa of the stomach is having the gastric glands. So these gastric glands are going to secrete the juice called as a gastric juice. Okay, so this gastric juice is being secreted from the gastric glands. So these gastric glands are consisting of the three different types of the cells. What are those three different types of the cells? That is mucous neck cells, peptic or chief cells, parietal or oxyntic cells. So these are the three different types of the cells which are present inside the gastric glands. Okay, so here the mucous neck cell, the name itself is going to say that the mucous neck cell is going to help in the secretion of mucus. Next is peptic or chief cells. So that peptic or the chief cell is going to secrete the proenzyme called pepsinogen. What is the meaning of the proenzyme? Proenzyme means it is the enzyme which is in the inactivated form and helps in the breakdown of proteins. Okay, so the next third type of the cell is parietal or oxyntic cell. So the parietal or oxyntic cell helps in the secretion of hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factors. What are these intrinsic factors? Intrinsic factors are the factors which are most essential for the absorption of vitamin B12. Okay, so here mucous neck cell secretes the mucus. What is the use of the mucus? The mucus, remember always, the function of the mucus with respect to the digestion and absorption is helping for the lubrication. What is the meaning of the lubrication? Lubrication means it is going to help in the easy passing of the food. Okay, then the peptic or the chief cells are going to help in the breakdown of proteins. For the breakdown of the proteins, what the enzyme is required called as pepsinogen. So that pepsinogen is being secreted from peptic cells, but this pepsinogen is in the inactive condition. It cannot be used for the breakdown of the proteins. Next, third type is parietal cells. So I said they are going to secrete the hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factors. With respect to that, it is vitamin B12. So what is the use of hydrochloric acid? Why that hydrochloric acid is being secreted inside our stomach by the gastric cells? So that is very much important, because the secretion of HCl helps to maintain the pH of the stomach. Okay, so this is with respect to the gastric glands and the gastric cells. So the next is the bolus, which is going to enter inside the stomach. So you all know that the stomach is a J-shaped structure which is having the sac-like structure. So that sac-like structure, when you hear the term sac, means you will recall, you will rewind that sac-like structure will helps in storage. What is the storage? Storage means storage of the food. What is the amount of storage? Storing the food is 4 to 5 hours. That's why from your breakfast to the lunch there will be 3 to 4 hours of gap. From lunch to the dinner there will be 4 to 5 hours gap. Okay, why? Because once what the food you are going to take for one meal, so that food get stored in the stomach only for 4 to 5 hours. If the food is getting stored in the for 4 to 5 hours, after the completion of the 4 to 5 hours, that food is mixed that stomach which is going to store the food for 4 to 5 hours, so that food after 4 to 5 hours it will be sent to the small intestine. So here that's why to your every meal there will be 3 to 4 hours of gap. So the stomach is going to help for the storage of the food for 4 to 5 hours. So this food here, the food means what is being entering inside the stomach. The food is it is the bolus. So this bolus which is going to enter inside the the bolus which is going to enter inside the esophagus, so that bolus will move to the stomach. When it comes to the stomach, so that wall of the stomach is made up of muscles, so that muscles will start undergoing the movement, and that movement is called as muscular movement. So this movement of the muscles which makes the food to mix thoroughly with the secretion of the gastric glands called as the gastric juice, so that movement is called as churning movement. So the churning movement of the muscular wall of the stomach is helping for the formation of the food called as chyme. What is this chyme? Chyme is the bolus which is getting mixed with gastric juice which is getting secreted from gastric glands. What is bolus? Bolus is also the masticated food, but that masticated food are being sticked together with the help of saliva. Okay, so here now the food what is being formed inside the stomach, that is called as the chyme. So this is with respect to the mechanical method what is being observed with inside the stomach. The next side, as and when the mechanical method will be going, on other side the chemical method also will be continued. Okay, so in case of the stomach, the mechanical method is being observed with the help of their muscles and makes that stomach to form the to undergo the churning movements. So here I said that the chief cells, they are going to secrete the inactive enzyme that is called as pepsinogen. What is the use of this inactive pepsinogen? The pepsinogen is going to help for the breakdown of the proteins, but to involve the pepsinogen for the breakdown of proteins, it is in the inactive state. So to involve this pepsinogen to break the proteins, so here that inactivated pepsinogen is being made as active pepsin. So how it is being made as active pepsin? That is the proenzyme pepsinogen on getting exposed to the HCl. From where this HCl is coming? The HCl is coming from oxantic cells. So when the HCl gets exposed to the pepsinogen, so that pepsinogen will get converted into active enzyme called as pepsin. So that pepsin is going to help for the breakdown of proteins inside the stomach. So now when inactive pepsinogen is being made as active pepsin, so that pepsin helps in the breakdown of proteins into proteases and proteases and the peptones. So what is this peptones? Peptones means you all know that we call amino acids as the building blocks for the proteins. To construct the protein, there should be the use of amino acid. So in between two amino acid there will be presence of a peptide bond. So because of this they are also called as the peptides. Okay, so here the HCl, we there is the need of HCl to make the inactive pepsinogen to become a active pepsin. So when the secretion of HCl becomes more, the pH is going to get increased. So when the pH is going to get increased, there may be a damage or the breakdown of the proteins may not takes place. So for to maintain or to break the proteins, the pH of the stomach is very important to maintain. Okay, so whenever the HCl is getting secreted in the more quantity, so the mucosal epithelium means the epithelium of the mucosa is helping from the secretion, that is the mucus and the bicarbonate which are present in the gastric juice. So the mucus and bicarbonates which are present in the gastric juice are going to play a very important role in the lubrication. Lubrication means for easy passing of the food and the protection of the mucosal epithelium. So in order to protect the mucosal epithelium, the mucus and bicarbonates will be present inside the gastric juice. Okay, so this is with respect to the chemical method what is being taking place inside our stomach. But here the food that we are with respect to the adult, we take the food, and that food whatever is rich in the proteins, that some part of the proteins partially they will be digested or they will be broken down inside the stomach. But with respect to the infants, where the infants will be continuously feeding on the breast milk, so to break or to digest the milk proteins, there is one more enzyme which is going to be present inside the stomach of the infants, that is called as renin. So here the renin is considered to be as a proteolytic enzyme. Why it is called as proteolytic enzyme? It helps in the breakdown of proteins. Okay, so this is with respect to the chemical and mechanical method of the digestion. That is the chemical and the mechanical method of the digestion only with respect to the buccal cavity and the stomach. Remaining part I will be discussing in the next class. Thank you.